Hello, everyone. It is Dr. Jen with Aging Advantage, and today I am excited to share with you Kela Woods. She is with Evolve Counseling and Coaching, and she is going to give you guys an educational opportunity for our family caregivers to be able to learn more about just mental health in general and being able to support emotional wellness for yourself and also for the people that you're caring for as we age and even people that have disabilities, which is obviously really key and really important as well to know how to kind of support that. So anyway, excited for you guys to be able to learn from her, and we will let you take it away.
Good morning. Good morning. Once again, Kela Woods, I am a therapist and owner of Evolve Counseling and Coaching. I see individuals, couples, and families for an array of mental health issues. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very important. Wanting to feel seen, connected, and heard, but also not wanting to be a burden. So, wanting to be seen, but not wanting to be a burden, especially in supporting emotional wellness in aging and disability. This important topic is so important. I hear in individual sessions so much when I ask individuals, when I ask clients, did you let someone know that? Most often than not, I hear no. I don't want to be trouble. I don't want to be a burden. So, I want to welcome everyone here today. Hopefully, I am going to create a safe space for everyone. Many people in aging and disability feel loneliness, they feel overlooked, they have a fear of being too. And I left it at being being too much of a burden, being too needy, all of the things, right? In life, because in life we were taught to be strong. So, these things actually lead to depression, anxiety, and that deep feeling of loneliness. And the truth are, you're not alone in this feeling if you do feel like sometimes you are a burden. So there's two things can be true at once. So this internal conflict that happens. I want connection and I want to support, but I don't want to bother anybody. And so usually we lean into not bothering, not being burdensome, and we isolate emotionally and physically isolate. We're silent and we're withdrawn. And this is hurtful and it's uncomfortable. So when we talk about what does feeling um what does this feeling create, right? What thoughts have we put in our mind when we think that we're a burden? We think that everybody has their own lives, right? I don't want to complain. I don't want to nag. Um, I should be able to handle this alone. I don't want to worry anyone. And then that's our exit ticket, right? That's how we get out of reaching out to others. So when you think about it, where does this feeling come from? It's usually from past experiences, maybe being let down or feeling like an inconvenience that one time that was very uncomfortable and you never want to be there again. So you decide that you're not going to be that burden. A heavy one is cultural or generational beliefs about being strong, being independent, doing things on your own, pushing through, right? Many of us were taught that be strong. It's your problem, no one else's problem. So as things get lonelier, as things become, you feel more of a burden, you you turn in and you start to just internalize those things. And a big one that is very heavy is when your life transitions and changes and you lose some of those titles, right? You are no longer the primary caregiver. You're no longer the provider. You're no longer the breadwinner. You're no longer those things. So you kind of get confused on what your purpose is. What is my purpose these days? Where do I fit in with my children and my family members and when they have busy lives? And fear of rejection, fear of being ignored. You don't want to feel rejected or ignored. And so the safest thing is to not reach out. Oh, sorry, here my slides look like they got a little jumbled. Let's see here. Let me find the correct slides. I am so sorry. We skipped way ahead. Okay, there we go. Don't know how we got there. The cost of saying silence. Sorry, you all for the technical difficulties. When we don't express our needs, things happen. We decline. Our mental health, depression, anxiety, those type of things decline. And some trauma comes to the surface, right? When things from your past start to revisit because you're in this state of feeling alone, isolated. Your physical health can worsen when you feel like a burden and you're not reaching out and you're not expressing your pain, your needs, and different things. You can worsen some of your conditions. Relationships become distant. Communication with loved ones and family members becomes few and far between, right? The calls lessen, the connection lessens, the invites lessens, the visits lessen. These are the things that happen when you become silent. And so many of your needs become unmet. There are things that you may need or you may be experiencing, and if you're silent, no one knows. It actually silence is it's an isolating factor. When you are quiet, you become isolative and you push away some of the things that could be there for you, even resources, right? Wanting to be seen is a human need. Wanting to feel connection is a human need. Community is a human need. We are wired for connection. We are wired for conversation. We are wired for affection. We are wired for those things. Being seen is being acknowledged, understood, valued. So if you ever begin to feel like you're a burden, you have to tell yourself the opposite, that you're not too much. You're not asking for too much, and that these are your needs that need to be met. So, if we think about reframing some of the thoughts, when you feel like I don't want to be a burden, you can reframe that thought with some new thoughts. And of course, you can reframe these thoughts in your language, but an example is I deserve support just like anyone else, right? Another thought, allowing people to help gives them a chance to care. You'll be surprised how many people are thinking the same things you are. That how many people want to connect, how many people want to reach out, but don't want to feel like they're interfering in your life and that they aren't a burden. So when you reframe your thoughts, it builds that connection and bridges the gap. Assumptions kill relationships. I say this often, especially in family dynamics. When we assume we can we can kill a relationship. And once again, those calls become fewer, the visits become fewer because we're both assuming. So, here are some ways to express your needs once again. The old thought, I don't want to be a burden. The new thought, I deserve support just like anyone else, right? And these are the same things we talked about, just repeating the old thought with the new thought. I'm too much. No, I'm just expressing my needs. It's okay to express our needs. I think for a while there, we didn't want to feel like a nag or a complainer. Those all things that felt negative. But actually, expressing your needs is emotional maturity. Being able to say, I need, is emotional maturity. So, here are some other practical ways to express your needs. Starting small. Can we talk for a few minutes? Right? Doing a quick check in with someone to see if they have time. Yes, they may have busy lives, and you may have called once at a busy moment. But overall, finding a good time to talk, finding a good time to connect, do you have a few minutes would be great. Um, Another thing that finding practical ways to connect, I could really use some company. Just saying it, ripping the band-aid off, right? Saying I need some company. You'd be surprised how you can find time for one another. Where busy lives. Hey, I'm off on Thursday. I can stop by. I don't need solutions. Sometimes I want to listen, want people to listen. Hey, sometimes you just need to vent, and letting your family know that is great. Family, friends, neighbors. I just wanna vent. And being clear. Be clear about things. Okay. I'm sorry, something happened here. When support isn't readily available, you do have some options, right? If everyone's at work, it's Monday morning, 10 a.m., there are community programs. There are therapy or counseling. There are support lines, support groups, faith-based groups. When support isn't readily available, maybe from your loved ones, there are others. There are insurances that cover it, grants that cover it. Reach out, ask case managers, ask other people. You'll be surprised who's in therapy and you may not even know it. I get so many clients reached out to me because of referrals, because someone else is in therapy. And then there are so many community programs, day programs, and so many things that you can do to find community outside of your friends and family. So boundaries goes both ways. So when we start speaking up, we also have to be ready for responses, right? You can ask for support, and someone may have a limit. But a healthy connection means that there's mutual respect. So the one time your sister or your daughter isn't available or that they have a time limit does not mean that you're a burden. Does not mean that there's all or none. She never has time. Maybe it was just that one time. Maybe it was a busy season. Do check-ins often. Clear communication with no shame in having your needs. So, some small daily practices. Check in with yourself. What do I need today? If you have that deep feeling of longing, loneliness, maybe it is connection. Maybe it is a check in with a loved one. Practice expressing one need to yourself every day. Stay connected. Call, text, attend a group meeting, join a group, find someone with some similar interests. There is a technique called body doubling. Say for instance you love to crochet and you have a neighbor that loves to crochet. Sitting together crocheting with no conversation is more therapeutic than you know. You get more accomplished, you probably get that project done a little faster, and you feel connected without a whole lot of chatter. And sometimes when you can't get a hold of someone, journal your thoughts. If everyone's busy, Start taking notes, journaling, reading your journal back to yourself, and so that you can find the coping skills that helped the last time. So here is a little encouragement when we talk about not wanting to be a burden. You are not a burden. You are a person with needs, feelings, and value. You deserve connection, care, and to be heard. So, I want to open up for any questions. Um, and in closing, I will say, what does it mean um, to feel heard and connected and to not be a burden? Just think about that to yourself. I'm sorry about this. I'm not sure what the jumble words here. I think what I was looking in here is how is connection beneficial to you? And just remembering you don't have to carry everything alone. Um, you don't have to carry everything alone.
Very good. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. That was so good. Donna, do you know if I have a couple questions that have came in that I'll ask, but Donna, do you have any questions that you can think of first that you'd like to ask?
Well, I just wanted to add a more so of a comment or um, I guess just kind of expound or agree with one of the things that you said, Kayla. Keela, at the closer to the beginning. One thing I know that especially elders go through a lot is when they think that they're being a burden to somebody. They don't reach out and say what it is that they need or, what it is that can be of some type of assistance if it's no more than just a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Um, something sometimes, like you say, just reaching out, talking about whatever it is. And sometimes they will deem it as being like really nothing or something small and minute to someone else, but to them it lies heavily on them. And so with it
Absolutely.
lying heavy on them, that becomes a burden or it becomes a worry for them, which we all know that worrying is not a good thing. We don't want to carry that because all that does is bring on other problems, and it can cause, different types of sicknesses, diseases. We don't want to do that. So that kind of stood out to me, Keela, when you said about that. That is so, so true. And dealing with the elderly community, I express to them all the time, never. It's so funny because I tell them, never think that you're a burden. And they call
Yes.
me like almost sometime every day. I get a phone call from somebody, sometimes several times a day. I got a phone call this morning. I think it was like 5 o'clock this morning. She called, and that's because she was awake. And I told her before, never think it's a problem. If I don't pick up, that means I'm not available at that time. But if I pick up, then, hey, go ahead and talk to
Yes.
me. So she took it up on herself and she called me. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't really think she
Mm-hmm.
would do that. Then I thought back though. I think almost probably about 7 out of 10 times she contacts me is really early, and I realized she's awake, she's up, and
Yes.
she's had a lot of trauma in her life. And
Uh-huh.
so the trauma that's going on in her life, I want to always be there for her and assist her in any kind of way that I can. So
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad to hear you today because when she's ready to reach out to someone, I would like to refer her to you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so that she can continue getting the proper assistance that she's needed. But yeah, that's
Yes.
all I wanted to say because that really struck something like that's so true. People always think that they're being a burden,
They
and
always, and then and you'll find that they'll apologize 10 times in one
yes,
conversation. And it's so
yes,
heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And I
it
always have to
is.
say, you don't have to apologize. You belong here. This is your space. You don't have to apologize at all.
Yes, yes, yes,
Hmm.
yes. That's
Hmm.
it. Absolutely. And I think a lot of times just helping them to feel comfortable will actually help them to start reaching out more and not feeling so bothersome, to someone else. But it's important. I
It
appreciate
is.
that. Thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Okay, one of the questions that we have is, okay, what would tend to maybe happen like in someone's life that would potentially start making them feel more like they're a burden? So like example this person gave, like are there certain life transitions like when they start obviously like losing their independence more obviously and having to start relying on caregivers more, like health changes or obviously like we've had a lot of the people downtown with all the tornado stuff and things like that that they've experienced,
Yes,
but different kinds of things like that, or like Donna just had mentioned, or somebody has like trauma or things like that. Like, are there certain kind of cues, I guess, triggers, like life kind of transition
absolutely.
things that would, start kind of precipitating somebody feeling more like that?
Yeah, yeah. One of the big ones is lack of mobility, right?
Oh,
When
yeah.
when you begin to have to, at my age, I move a little slower sometimes, right? And so when
Mm-hmm.
you move a little slower or grocery trips take a little longer, you begin to feel like you're interfering with your loved one's life or your support system, even your caregivers, right? Cognitive functions
Mm-hmm.
and cognitive delays when conversations or and you don't feel like you're keeping up, or when technology changes, when your daughter wants to send you 10 text messages and you just want to pick up the phone, that feels burdensome. And so a lot of these things make you feel alone or like you are far behind. And instead of expressing those needs, it's easier to just internalize them.
Kind of like almost, yeah, somebody like you kind of maybe see them like withdraw, they kind of maybe like shut down. And that's another question that's kind of that leads into the very next question somebody else just had in terms of like and you talked about it a little bit in terms of, somebody can start having like physical symptoms that you'll start
Hmm.
seeing, etc. But yeah, like what are things I guess that people that you'll actually like hear them also like say or do, to your point, like they kind of start kind of withdrawing a little bit more, kind of shutting down a little bit more. But like, what are cues to listen for, I guess, for things that they'll
Gotcha.
say to you
Gotcha.
that you see them doing?
Yes. So one of the things I mentioned earlier is when they become extremely apologetic, right?
Mhm.
I don't mean to bother you, but
Oh, yeah.
like when they run out of something or if they start to sound like they feel like they're interfering with apologies um or I know you're busy, but right, starting sentences off with things like that. I think sometimes on the opposite side, as family members, as children, as support system, we have to give them that grace and say, "Hey, you're no bother at all."
Hmm.
And we have to be careful sometimes when we rush, right? Rushing like, okay, mom, hurry up, pick some ketchup or or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that's that
Things.
cognitive things and just being patient with the aging, especially, um in interpersonal relationships like that. So those are some things to look forward to. And then if you got a call, like Donna got that call at 5 a.m. 2 or 3 times a week, and you notice, Mom stopped calling. What happened? Or Aunt stopped calling at her 6 a.m. wake up call. What's going on? So then we
Hmm.
have to pay attention to patterns as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and that is,
Stop.
yeah, well, that's
What?
a good point. Yeah,
Hmm.
to what you said too, though, because even like ADLs are like the activities of daily living. Yeah, that
Hmm.
people do. Yeah, because I
Hmm.
would imagine I just thought about that when you're talking to, because it can show up in a lot of ways. Yeah, like the needing people to take them to stores, or I guess like doctor's appointments, but even like good grief again, God love these people. As they age, but they're on so many different kinds of medications and navigating
Absolutely.
all the pharmacy trips and I yeah, like I guess even like bathing. I mean, they're food. Like yeah, there's so many
Mhm.
different areas. What are other, yeah, I guess what are other, or I guess let me ask this, I guess too. Are there certain areas that normally people start feeling like a burden in first? Like the having to have somebody take them to the store or take them to doctors. Like, are there certain areas that people kind of like get overwhelmed and
You know,
first with?
the most common that I see, oddly enough, is social functions. If you were once the go-to place, right? You cooked
Mm-hmm.
all the dinners, you hosted Easter and Christmas, and after church you cooked Sunday dinner, and then your abilities change and
Mm-hmm.
your visits start to slow down. That's when I think it comes out, especially in one-on-one individual therapy. No one has time for me anymore, is what it feels like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not in that place to be the matriarch or the patriarch of the family, right? Your abilities have changed, and so maybe the household functions have shifted to Susie's house, and she has lots of stairs, and you can't go, and nobody ever noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful example because I wouldn't even thought about that aspect. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's a big one too, right there. Most
Mhm.
definitely. I kind of wanted to share with you guys too a situation. Just recently, a friend and I were just talking, and because she's over a facility, she's a nurse at over a facility. Her mom, she doesn't live with her mom. Her mama doesn't live with, but in her mom, it's the house that she grew up in, right? So it's her mom, her mom's sister, and her mom's brother that lives there. So everybody is up in age now. And so when my friend goes to do things for her mom, she also does things for her aunt and her uncle. And
Okay.
so her mom decided one day, she does it all the time. And my friend is trying to get her to stop. But she was like, should I take her keys from her at this point because she's scaring me? Her
Mm,
mom gets up and she'll just go somewhere and do something. And she's dealing with some things mentally. Um, or even her vision, is just not the same anymore. So my friend constantly tells her every day, and she'll check in with her mom and, okay, do you need something? Especially over the weekend. She goes every weekend, making sure that she has the groceries, and if they want to go to outings and things like that, she takes them and do things. But her mom just say right now at this very present time, what is it, almost 11:40 in the morning, okay? Her mom, instead of waiting till her daughter gets off work, she won't call her anything. Oh, you know what? I need a carton of eggs. Okay, I'm
mhm,
just gonna go up here real quick and just go around the corner to the store. I'm gonna get them. And she has gotten lost before.
mhm.
She's even ran into the side of one of her neighbors' yard, trying to get back into the driveway. So she's doing some things that can be very, very dangerous
That's
to her
dangerous.
health and
Mhm,
wellness. And she's like, well, I'm not going too far. I don't want to keep bothering you just for little things like that. So she'll think it's something small and minute. It's not big enough to bother her daughter. So
absolutely. Mhm,
I'm just gonna call upon you when I need you for big things, not for little bitty things. That way I don't wear my welcome out. And my friend keeps having to tell her and remind her, it's not a bother. You're not wearing me out. I don't care if I am tired. I prefer to do it because I know it's going to get done and I know you're safe versus you trying to do it. I don't care if it is around the corner. Was there
mhm.
really something you couldn't wait on? And her mom will say, well, I probably could have waited. Yeah, you could have waited because it wasn't any a big deal. It's just that she's going through too, losing her what do you call it? She's losing her gosh, guys, I can't think of the word.
Like independence.
And
Independence. There
Yeah.
you go. She's losing her independence.
Yeah.
I was
And
going to say the same
yeah,
thing, that
it's
craving for
hard.
your
Mm-hmm.
independence, right? Like
Yeah.
wanting it so bad. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so it's really hard. That's another thing that will cause them to, not call upon, or the withdrawals, or, just sort of the isolation. It can come easier and faster than we can even imagine, because we're not in that place. When you have your
Mm-hmm.
independence, when you have, you know, friends and family around you, and you're mobile. So if I ever get lonely, I can go drive up around the corner to a park and go walk or something, to be around people. When, to me, that's something I don't even think twice about. I can just do it. But what about somebody that's 70 or 65, or even at my age, but they're dealing with cataract, glaucoma or something,
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So those little things like that, we don't really think about, you know?
And Donna, you bring up an amazing point, how traumatic it is to overnight go from having an ability and it being snatched away, right? You
Yeah.
know, whether there's like an amputation or a vision problem that wasn't, we have some things that are gradual and that happen and that you can probably start preparing for, rearranging the house so you can have. But just imagine one day, accidents or falls or things like this, and having an ability one day and it being taken away the next.
Hmm. Well, even like I was thinking when you guys were talking too, like somebody like that would have a stroke or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're, I mean, that's like
Right.
immediate. And for some people, that's probably even, I don't want to say, I mean, like obviously amputation, things like that are frustrating, but that's like super frustrating because it's like,
Oh,
A-
yeah.
I feel like for a lot
absolutely.
of these poor patients, it's like the bad side is the side that's now the good side, and it's like, I can't brush my teeth left-handed. Like, I can't do it now. Like, but then
Yeah.
these people like
Hmm.
have to because they have a stroke that affects, the right side. And then they
Hmm.
Right.
it gets all
Yep.
shuffled around for them and even more frustrating
Hmm.
sometimes.
And then you're
That's
put in
true.
this position where you're doing all, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. You're in this repair mode just overnight when yesterday you were doing all of these things for yourself.
Yep.
Hmm.